Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is now in session. We have one case that's set for plea, cause number 325-078. Case is style of State of Texas versus Michael Dwayne Harrell. Mr. Harrell, would you please come forward? Mr. Harrell, your full name is Michael Dwayne Harrell, is that correct? Mr. Harrell, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Harrell, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God? Yes. Mr. Harrell, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Harrell? I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Mr. Harrell, I have before me a document that is titled Information. This information alleges that on or about August 29th of 2019, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of theft of services. Mr. Harrell, do you understand what you've been charged with? I do, sir. And to discharge, Mr. Harrell, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest? Guilty. Now you're pleading guilty freely and voluntarily? Yes. And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty? Yes. Mr. Harrell, I have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. Do you recognize this document? On page, well, Mr. Harrell, you're here represented by your attorney, Buddy Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds, do you waive a record in Mr. Harrell's case? So waived, Judge. Okay. Now, Mr. Harrell, I have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. Do you recognize this document? On page 2 of the same document, he didn't put his he's supposed to put his initials. It looked like it was just a mark. I think that is. Initials, MDH. You can just put your initials in. I don't know. Okay, Mr. Harrell, on page 2 of this document, misdemeanor plea admonishment states exhibit number 1, there's a set of initials on a line next to a box that's checked guilty. Are these your initials? Yes. On page 3 of the same document, there's a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Is this your signature? Yes. On the next document, Mr. Harrell, which is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document? Yes. And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant? Yes. There are 2 boxes that are checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargaining case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that? The second box states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. Mr. Harrell, I also have another document here. This document is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document? And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant? Yes. Mr. Harrell, before you sign and initial all of these documents that I've just mentioned to you, did your attorney, Mr. Reynolds, go over these documents with you? He did. And did you read and understand everything in these documents? And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge? Mr. Harrell, are you a citizen of the United States? State. I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State, you like to offer States 1? Yes, Your Honor, State offer State 1. Any objections? There are no objections, Judge. No objections. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Mr. Reynolds, you've advised and counseled Mr. Harrell. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial? None to my knowledge. Mr. Harrell, your attorney, Mr. Reynolds, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his services? I was. Has he provided full, complete, and competent legal representation? Yeah. Mr. Harrell, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
Your Honor, in exchange for defendant's plea of guilty in this case, the state is recommending confinement in Jefferson County Jail for a period of 3 days, and that defendant be required to pay $356.61 restitution to Love's Tire Care, number 696. Defendant has satisfied his obligations regarding restitution, and the state is asking that the court give defendant credit for 3 days previously spent in jail, making this a time-served plea agreement, Your Honor. As for court costs, the state is asking that the court use the time served to both tax and retire the court costs, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Harold, the state is offering that you serve 3 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any more time in the Jefferson County Jail because he's already served 3 days in the Jefferson County Jail. Let me do this here. Okay. The state is offering that you serve 3 days in Jefferson County Jail. You've already served 4 days in jail in Dallas County, according to the jail records that we have. So you'll be given credit for the time that you already spent in jail, which will eat up the 3 days. Which basically means when I say eat it up, you won't have to serve any time in jail because you'll be given credit for time served. Now, the court cost in this case is $387. The 4 days that you serve in Dallas County Jail will satisfy the court costs in this case. And so what that simply means is you would not have to pay any court costs in this case because you served 4 days, and the 4 days will satisfy the court costs. So therefore, the court costs will be taxed and retired. Now, do you understand the state's offer and the jail time credit that you have?
I do, sir.
And do you think that is and how the jail time credit will be applied to your jail time as well as your court costs?
I do.
And do you think that is fair and is just?
I do.
Well, let me do this here. Also, you're required to pay restitution in the amount of $356.61 payable to the Love Tire and what's that station? Uh, Store 696. And it's my understanding that you've already tended to check the restitution check to the state. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, let me, you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that the state's offer, as well as the jail time credit that you're receiving, is fair and just?
I do.
And do you accept it?
I do.
Okay, I'll follow the pre-bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. State is offering that you serve 3 days in Jefferson County Jail. You will not have to serve any more time in Jefferson County Jail because you've already served 4 days in Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you'll be given credit for time served. The court cost in this case is $387, but you would not have to pay the court cost because the time that you spent in jail has already paid it off. Therefore, the court cost will be taxed and retired. And you've already tendered a check in the amount of $356.61 as restitution payable to the Love Tire Care store number 696. And the court is going to follow the plea bargain agreement. Okay. Now, Mr. Harrell, you're going to stand on the X next to your attorney. You're going to follow the directions of our clerk. Once you finish following her directions, you'll be free to go and you have a blessed day.
Thanks.
You're welcome.